So it feels like forever since I've released a YouTube video, and that's because it has. So I'm sorry that you've been waiting such a long time. This year's been pretty crazy for weddings with the knock-on of 2020 and 2021 postponements, but I finally found a little gap in my calendar to be able to give you the review that I hope you've been waiting for, which is my opinions on using the Samyang VDSLR lenses with the Ronin 4D. Today I'm going to be talking about the Samyang VDSLR Mark II cine lenses. So there's the Mark 1 that I've been using for a year and a half now, actually. So yeah, a year and a half I've been using the VDSLR Mark 1s. I actually picked those up secondhand, so they were used in good condition, super cheap, picked up a pack of 5 of those. And I was so impressed with their quality for the price that I was kind of waiting to see what was in the pipeline in terms of my next lens choice. Didn't want to be too risky in trying out something completely new. As some of you may know, I did try the Zine lenses. However, since the purchase of this camera, the Ronin 4D by DJI, they didn't fit on the camera at all. So I had to look at another option that's going to work both on this camera and also my Lumix S series cameras as well. So I haven't had a chance really to do a proper review of the Ronin 4D. There's quite a lot of early reviews on the Ronin 4D on YouTube already, so I wasn't sure if it's something that I necessarily needed to do. It's weird, since the launch of this camera there hasn't been a great deal of content out there on YouTube. There's been the odd kind of sample footage videos, and I posted a few of those as well, just to give people an idea of kind of what footage this camera is capable of. I know that when I'm looking for a new piece of tech, especially lenses, I like to go and look up sample footage just to see what kind of footage the cameras and lenses combined can get. So if you have a look on my channel, you'll see plenty of those on there already. I didn't really feel that I needed to do so much of an in-depth review of this camera because the early adopters and the paid YouTube reviewers had already kind of really gone in depth with all of the functionalities of this camera. So I feel like if you're watching this video, you kind of know what this camera is about. It's a camera and gimbal all in one, with a screen, handle, battery, SSD recording media. It is essentially a dream come true for someone like me who's a solo shooter and is kind of looking to just have one core device, not have to worry about balancing gimbals and HDMI cables and all of those kind of things that come with a modular setup. So this camera so far for me has been, I would say, the best investment I've made for a couple of years now. So when I first purchased the Ronin 4D, I honestly thought I'd made a massive mistake. The sheer size and weight of this camera is quite ridiculous. I think overall it is probably double or triple the weight of my previous setup, which was the Lumix S1H with the same lenses. It has definitely taken some getting used to. After a wedding or a full day shoot, I'm absolutely wiped out, and I have started wearing a harness for the longer segments of a wedding, like the speeches and the ceremony, just to try and take some of that weight off my arms. So yeah, if you're thinking about buying the Ronin 4D, I would probably recommend to rent it and then go and take out a gym membership as well. When I first picked up this camera, I actually ordered it with the 35mm DL lens from DJI, which is an f2.8. And there was something not quite right about that lens for me. I normally shoot on primes, and having used the cine primes, I was used to apertures of like t1.5, and this 2.8 lens just wasn't quite cutting it. I also noticed, and I think this might be a really weird electronic problem as well, that I was getting so much noise in the footage. And having a look on the Ronin 4D Facebook page and forums, a lot of other people were noticing noise in their footage as well. Interestingly enough, when I swapped the mount over from the DL mount to the E mount, because this camera has interchangeable mounts, and then using an EF adapter to mount the Samyang cine lenses on there, the noise problems kind of disappeared. So I think that is probably an electrical issue. Maybe they might be able to fix that with some firmware. Adding to the list of cons when I first got it, so that not only was there the weight issue, the file sizes were so big. My computer couldn't edit any of the H.264 content, so I had to go and buy a Mac Studio just to be able to edit the footage. The weight and yeah, the fact that it was a really noisy picture was really frustrating. So it's definitely taken me probably about 6 months to try and get my head around all the quirks of this camera. But now that I understand it, I am absolutely in love. So having used the original Mark 1 VDSLRs for about a year and a half, my contact at Samyang was kind enough to send me out a set of the Mark 2 lenses, and that was a set of 5 in a really nice case that they come in, just for trialing purposes. So I've got the full set at the moment. I've got a 14, a 24, 35, 50 and 85. And I thought the best way for me to be able to test these lenses out was actually to hit up one of my friends, Ilana, who's an amazing performer and dancer. I actually worked with her last year on a fitness class that she runs called Dance Box, which is like a pop-up fitness class for empowering women. And yeah, we decided to go to a local skate park in London and just test out each of the focal lengths to see how well they would perform on the Ronin 4D. So here's that footage. When I was actually looking for other lenses to try after thinking about moving on from the Mark 1s, I was just a little bit worried because I wanted to make sure that, because I've been so happy with the quality and the performance from the Mark 1s for the price, I wanted to make sure that I could still achieve a consistent style. I didn't want to try a completely different brand and have a different look with my images. I'm always really happy with the color consistency out of all of these lenses, and because they're all in the same range, one of the benefits of shooting with cine primes is that you're going to get more accurate color consistency throughout the different focal lengths. Also, the main reason for shooting on cine lenses is because the Ronin 4D has the focus motor. It is an additional purchase, but I already had that for the Mark 1 cine lenses, and I also needed to purchase the counterweight, which is like £300 or £400 just for a weight to be able to balance the lenses. Now, even though these are manual lenses, of course, because they're cine primes, using the amazing DJI lidar system on the top here means that I can calibrate each lens, and it actually enables pretty decent autofocus. I would rate this autofocus system with the lidar out of 10, maybe like a 7 or an 8. It's not perfect. It's not going to be as good as the autofocus from the likes of Canon or Sony, but you also do, when you have the handles attached here, you also have the manual focus control as well. So it does give you a good bit of flexibility from switching between autofocus, automated manual focus, and then just pure manual focus as well. And I found that after calibrating them, which is a little bit of a tricky process, the results are actually pretty good. And to finally have face tracking on manual focus cine lenses is quite unbelievable. A lot of people send me messages on Instagram and YouTube asking how I achieve that look, and I honestly believe that these lenses, shooting pretty much wide open most of the time, making sure that I'm shooting in the right frame rates and shutter speed, and then adding my LUTs on top of that footage is what gives me that overall consistent look. Whether I'm shooting music video or a wedding or an advert, I hope that by using the same kit and the consistent lenses and shutter speed rules, that people can tell that it is my work still. I would say the main downside of this combination is the weight. I've taken this to a lot of countries this year, and to be honest with you, I have really struggled. The fatigue the next day is a serious problem. So I'm not quite sure what to do about that, apart from keeping going to the gym, making sure I stay hydrated and putting it down when I can. Also wearing a harness for any kind of longer extended shooting periods, because it's fine if you're kind of lifting it and putting it down on and off, but as soon as you've got to hold it for more than 5 minutes, it is a bit of a struggle to hold. Thankfully, the lenses are not heavy at all. They are relatively light. It's just really the main bulk of this camera that is the problem. However, the positives do outweigh the negatives. For me, having just one system that fits in one case, and I have 3 batteries, I can literally fit the camera, the batteries, everything kind of pretty much assembled, ready to go in one flight case that fits in hand luggage. The battery is fine for the amount of stuff that it's powering. To be able to have the monitor, camera, gimbal, autofocus system all in one is a game changer, because before I was having to struggle with charging 2 gimbal batteries and 3 monitor batteries and 2 camera batteries, and then making sure that everything was turned on in the right order, that everything was talking to each other in the way that I wanted. So really the last piece of the puzzle for me was making sure I had the right lens fit. The difference between the Mark 1 and Mark 2 isn't something that you're necessarily going to notice on a sample from YouTube. They are very similar image quality wise. In fact, you might struggle to find a difference between the two. However, if you are new to cine lenses and you've kind of shopped around a little bit, you'll know that these Mark II Samyangs are extremely good value for money. They are very well built, so I've definitely noticed an increase in the build quality over the Mark 1s. They also have the measurements on both sides of the lens now, and the weather sealing has been improved as well. Not that I'll be shooting with this in the rain, but if you do, then that's a bonus. Another benefit of picking cine lenses as well is the ability to swap filters out because the front threads are the same. I don't use ND filters externally on my lenses anymore because the Ronin 4D has an internal ND, which is amazing. The only thing to note is that they don't balance 100% perfectly, and that's because the focus motor is on the right side of the camera, and that kind of makes the camera tilt ever so slightly to the right. But when you use the auto tune feature, which is built into the camera, and it seems to make the motor strong enough that it hasn't been a problem. I remember having to change lenses on my old system with the Ronin RS2, and I would probably not change lenses as long as I would like because I couldn't be bothered to rebalance everything. Whereas now with these, it's so much quicker to be able to just turn everything off, swap the lens over. It takes about 10 seconds, and then I just tap on the system to pick which focal length I'm using, and the camera memorizes the autofocus data. So it's just a matter of swapping the lens over, auto-tuning the gimbal side, and then selecting the lens. So it's so easy to be able to just swap the lens and carry on shooting. So if you are the proud owner of the DJI Ronin 4D and you're still not 100% satisfied with the results you're getting, maybe from the autofocus or the lack of depth of field from the DL lenses, then I thoroughly recommend that you either buy or rent a set of these Samyang VDSLRs. I have found them to be the perfect pairing for this camera. Obviously you're going to need the focus motor and the counterweight, which is an additional expense, and then you're going to have to go through the trouble of manually calibrating the infinity distance and the close focus distance. But I promise you, once you've gone through that pain and you've saved all of the settings on the camera, having this set available from 14mm, and I believe they go all the way up to 135mm, for such a cheap cost, it is a no-brainer combination. So if you've just got your Ronin 4D and you're not quite sure which lenses to go for, I would 100% recommend trying out these Samyang VDSLRs. They are extremely good value for money, and the picture quality that you get out of them is absolutely unbelievable, and I could not be happier with them. I'm going to be shooting on this combination for the foreseeable future. I know that I'm a bit of a gear addict and I'm always chopping and changing which cameras and lenses that I'm using, so there is that. But yeah, I'm really happy that I can still carry over my original style from my previous camera and lenses without any compromise, knowing that everything is working really well after like 6-7 months of trying to figure everything out. Hopefully I've done the hard work so that you won't have to. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments about either the Ronin 4D or the Samyang lenses, let me know in the comments down below, and hopefully it won't be too long until I see you guys again.